If you follow me on Instagram, then you already know this. If you don't, then surprise. I am 8 months pregnant. Let's talk. I have tried every intro possible to begin this video. Nothing seems real or authentic and not curated. Like, hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Let's talk about sad stuff. So I honestly am just going to jump into this video. I will say before we get too deep into any of the heavier stuff, this video is definitely going to be talking about some distressing themes: pregnancy loss, miscarriage. If that is not something that you are able to watch right now or tolerate, I would suggest that you pop off of this video. I just don't want this video contributing to any negative emotions that you may be feeling. Come back at another time, or don't at all, whatever works. In the beginning of 2023, my husband and I lost our daughter and first pregnancy when I was at the beginning of my second trimester. She had a chromosomal abnormality called trisomy 18, which was horrible. Honestly, there's no good way to put it. It sucked. It was the worst thing that I have ever been through, and I would never wish it on my worst enemy. I did make a completely separate video about that, and if it's something that you're interested in learning more about, that video is still up on my channel. After that all happened, I think that I was just searching for some way to like feel better immediately because I was so sad. And there was nothing that made the sadness go away. There was nothing that was making me feel better, nothing that I could do to feel better. I just had never felt so low and so deep in that lowness in my life. In my naivety of healing, I thought the solution to filling the void of the loss that we had endured was to just get pregnant again. And if I was pregnant again, I would feel the baby kick again, and I would be able to replace all those feelings. And then suddenly I would know what it was like to feel okay again, because I would be okay again and everything would be fine and I'd be happy and feel good. Let me tell you, that could not be further from the truth. That was such an unfortunate way for me to think about healing, but I just, in those moments, I'm telling you, there was nothing that made more sense to me. There was nothing that felt better than the thought in my head of being pregnant again, and suddenly everything would be okay. So fast forward a couple months, I get pregnant again. I had like the faintest positive pregnancy test and then had a miscarriage like immediately after, like 2 days later. And I really didn't take too much of that to heart. I didn't feel as affected by that in that moment. We had just gone through such a massive loss that I was like, it's okay, I'm fine, like I can handle anything, this is fine. And I was literally just like bulldozing through every feeling anything at all, and just trying to like get through. Like if I just keep going and I just keep pretending, then eventually I won't have to pretend and everything will be fine. And again, spoiler, that is not how that works. Fast forward from that situation a couple of months, I was still in my head about getting pregnant, was like, if I just get pregnant, I will feel better. And then Corey and I decided to move back to Virginia, kind of give up everything we had in Texas, sell our house, and restart. And that was something that we recognized after we lost Arlie, was like, we don't have anything here. We don't have support here. My best friend is in Texas, but outside of that, we didn't have the community there that we have here. It felt better and it felt right to come back to Virginia and kind of regroup. We had been back in Virginia for like all of 3 days. And I was talking to Corey and like, I think I missed my period. Haha, it'd be crazy if I was pregnant. And I was pregnant. And I was like, wow, third time's the charm. This is exciting. Until it wasn't. That pregnancy I was exceptionally excited about. I had calmed down a little bit in thinking that I would just feel better if I was pregnant again. It felt like, oh, this is what is supposed to be happening. This is where we're supposed to be. We're back in Virginia. I'm pregnant. This will be perfect. A week or two after getting this blazing positive pregnancy test, I had another miscarriage. When I tell you that that absolutely destroyed me, I mean, all of my pieces fell apart. I completely crumbled. And I wanted to scream and cry and yell at the world. And I was like, what the F is happening here? And why is this happening to us? We're young, we're healthy, there's nothing else going on. I've never had any issues like this where I would ever have to worry about fertility or getting pregnant or maintaining a pregnancy or being healthy. There was nothing. So why was this happening? After we went through the last miscarriage, I was pretty devastated. Corey was upset. He had his own emotions as well, but I think the biggest loss that we had suffered was Arlie. And we had gone to her appointments. We had seen our little baby. She had this big beautiful nose that Corey has, and I think for him processing that loss over processing the miscarriages was just different. But he had seen me become such a shell of myself. He looked at me and was like, we can't keep doing this. We cannot keep forcing these emotions and keep trying to make things happen that maybe just aren't ready for us right now. We did at that point make one appointment with a fertility specialist. We were referred by my OB because we had lost our daughter and then had 2 recurrent miscarriages, 3 losses altogether out of 3 pregnancies. So they had said that hey, this is probably the most ideal thing for you to do. I had some lab work done prior to that appointment. We had realized that my thyroid was super out of whack. I have Hashimoto's. It's always been out of whack with the transition and I think multiple miscarriages, and I hadn't been on my medication for a month because we had moved in different pharmacies. So all of this kind of got us to that point. Fast forward to the new year, we found out that I was pregnant. When I tell you that I have never been so scared of something in my life, I was absolutely terrified. There are just no words. As soon as we found out, I was so not negative because of the baby. I was unbelievably excited for our baby. I was negative because I was I don't think this is gonna go the way we want it to. And after going through so much loss, I didn't know how to make it okay or be okay in those moments and celebrate the fact that I was pregnant or be excited that I was pregnant. I will tell you that I am 34 weeks pregnant now with a very healthy little boy, and we are so unbelievably excited. All of that story is what brings us to this point that I want to talk to you guys about, which is the anxiety that comes with pregnancy after going through so much loss. And whether it be 1 miscarriage or 10, I think everyone can identify with the fear that comes after you've suffered a loss. It becomes a whole new view and perspective on pregnancy and fertility and life in general. So over the last 8 months, I have been anxiously excited and nervous about having this sweet little baby, and I finally felt ready. At 34 weeks pregnant, I feel like I can talk about this and be somewhat more comfortable, though I don't think I'll be comfortable till he gets here. And once he is in my arms, outside of my body, and physically here with me, I think I'll feel absolutely incredible. I think up until that moment, I'll always have a little bit of fear and doubt, but I kind of want to talk to you about what these 8 months have kind of looked like for me and what that loss had kind of set the tone for. So after finding out I was pregnant, we went to the doctor immediately. I was able to get an ultrasound immediately because of our history. We went in, saw the baby, saw the heartbeat. There was a small snippet of peace that came with that ultrasound. I just remember laying there and I'm squeezing Corey's hand like it's gonna fall off, and I'm just staring at the screen and bouncing my foot and figuring out okay, we will be okay. We will be okay no matter what happens. And then she scans over this little tiny little itty bitty little bean and we see his little heart flicker, and I was oh my God, I think he has a heartbeat. I think we're okay for this moment. Those sweet moments were very fleeting because 5 minutes of scanning and seeing him and knowing that he was okay in that moment was preceded with ample time before the next moment of reassurance. Though I tried to soak up those moments as much as I could, it was still very difficult, especially in those earlier days. Fast forward a few weeks, I go to the doctor again. We listen to his heartbeat, which is still there, and for that moment, all of my fears go away. And honestly, that's kind of what the entirety of pregnancy has been for me. It's these beautiful moments of peace and reassurance, followed by so much time between appointments and waiting to know if he's okay. Every appointment was another marker or another deadline, and it was if I could just get to 12 weeks and be good and things be okay, then maybe I could find some peace in that and maybe I would feel good. So I'd made it to 12 weeks. I had horrendous morning sickness and I was going through it hormonally, but I was it's fine because every time I puke, I'm like, he's making my hormones do this, which means my body's doing what it's supposed to be doing, which means we're okay. That's not necessarily true. That is what I use to justify my feelings in my head. So please take what I'm saying with a grain of salt. To me, in my head, if I could just use that as the next marker and the next thing, then I would feel okay. But getting to the anatomy scan was then the next most important step for me. I make it to the anatomy scan. He is beautiful. He looks incredible. We like verify that he's a boy. From that point to now, I think was where I had the biggest transition in feelings. When we made it to 24 weeks, we hit viability, and I was like, okay, things could happen now and he could still be okay. And that was a very big breath of fresh air. That was a very big sigh of relief for me at that point. There was still like this overarching theme of anxiety and worry, and I had started to feel him move, but then my doctors were like, okay, make sure you're counting how much he's moving, and you need to come in if he's not moving enough or if things change. And then I felt this newfound anxiety that I thought would have withered away at this point, where we made it to such a good marker and he's moving and he's active and he does all these different things. But now I need to monitor all this extra stuff and make sure that everything's okay. And I had this one night, I was probably 26 or 28 weeks pregnant, and I looked at Corey and I was just crying, and I was like, I don't know if I'll ever stop worrying. I don't know how to make this anxiety go away. I don't know how to feel okay. And I felt almost robbed of like enjoying my pregnancy because I've been so in my own brain about all of these bad things that could happen. And he like looked at me and was like, babe, stop. He just kicked the crap out of me. He feels me getting excited and having this conversation. But Corey looks at me and is like, you have to stop worrying about the things you cannot control. And there are so many things within this pregnancy and within life in general that are going to be completely and utterly out of your control. And if you sit and you worry and you wait for something bad to happen, it always will. And I honestly think in that moment is when I realized like, I married a smart man. That is correct. You are right. You're right. Granted, like, did that just make every worrisome, crazy emotion that I had just like fly out the window because he said so? No. It gave me a different perspective and something to focus on that wasn't scary all the time. It was just that moment in that conversation where I was like, wow, I am allowed to feel okay. And that was definitely a bit freeing. I'm gonna make a different video about all the things that no one told me about pregnancy, but one of them was I didn't know how thirsty I would be. Dude, I could drink a lake and still be thirsty. All of this to say, this has been my experience with pregnancy this time around. While in some ways it has been scary and overwhelming and kind of like nerve-wracking, I feel unbelievably lucky to be in the position we are now and to be able to experience what we've experienced and to have this beautiful, lovely little boy in my belly, and I just cannot wait for him to be here. Outside of getting incredible encouragement from my husband and overall having him to lean on, I have some great friends, 2 incredible friends that have let me lean on them entirely this pregnancy. They both have had different pregnancies. One of my friends had all of her children somewhat early, and the third one was very early. He was in the NICU for like 6 weeks or something crazy. And then my other friend had not complications, but different considerations with her pregnancy as well, and ended up having to have 2 C-sections instead of what she had planned. And talking to them about their separate situations and learning about, you know, expectation versus where you are, that's been so freeing and so helpful to discuss and to talk about. I would really encourage you to talk to your partner about what you're experiencing. I would also encourage you to talk to your friends. Having some of that support has been so unbelievably helpful. While I'm not a labor and delivery nurse or OB nurse, and I am so far out of my league here, if you just need to talk, please talk down below. I'll respond to you. We could chit chat. I can't answer any of your like medical OB type questions, but I can talk to you and be your friend. And that I feel like is part of my duty in being here and talking about this kind of stuff, is to like help be supportive. So if there's something that I can help you with, comment down below and we can chit chat. That kind of wraps up this video. I honestly could just sit here and continue to talk, but I'm rambling and I already know this video is gonna be an atrocious amount of time long. So I hope that if you have made it to the end of this video, you enjoyed what we talked about and can find some piece of solace and know that you're also not alone, that this type of loss affects so many of us, and that it's really important to talk about these things. If we don't talk about it, I don't know who will, but it's okay to feel the way that you feel, and it's also okay to get to a point where you do feel happy and excited. If you've made it to the end of this video, thank you so much for watching. I am nervously excited to post and talk about this again, and overall just excited to be back to YouTube in general. I will say that I think my content will be shifting a little bit from nursing content to like mom stuff, which I'm really excited for. However, if there's nursing things and curiosities that I can talk to you about, then please leave them down below. Thank you so much for watching this video, and I will see you in the next one.